Now, in this, what has been called the Climate Smart Urban Planning Initiative, we're trying to find out where infrastructure is going to be built in the short term, like where are roads coming, where's power coming, and so on, and plan around that. At the moment, the plans tend to be in one area and the infrastructure is built in another area. One of the lessons we can learn from development of urban areas in more developed countries is there's a much closer relationship between investors, planners, and government spending on infrastructure. For example, you might be saying, okay, as government, we'll build a road here, but are you going to invest? Is that going to cause you to invest to the private sector? And the private sector says, yeah, we can invest there. And then there'll be, okay, can you contribute? Can we work together? And that's brought in huge amount of money to urban areas in developed countries over the last 20 years.
We moved from the long listing workshop to individual candidate areas, starting from Muduma in Mpigi district. Then we moved to Gaba in Makinde division in KCCA, and finally moved to Mpata in Mukono district.
The reason as why these areas were selected included Muduma hosts the oil terminal. It also offers direct connectivity to Entebbe, and it is easily accessible by roads. Gaba has tourism potential. It hosts the main market, and it also offers direct connection to Mukono across the lake. Mpata is still a green area. It has tourism potentials, and the land is still affordable.
In general, Muduma is a typical peri-urban area which has a perfect mix between the built-up and the natural features, though it is starting to have an increasing ecological footprint with the increasing urbanization in that area. While Gaba is a typical built-up area, a brownfield, though a waterfront, and there is a lot of fragmentation in that area. And for Mpata, it is a typical greenfield. Mpata is a greenfield with much of the natural forests, the wetlands still untouched, and most of the waterfront is still in its natural state.
The challenge that we face at CSUDI in terms of financing is we have to turn an urban plan into a project area that can then attract external financing from a multilateral bank or a DFI. Our innovative approach uses the existing fiscal resources of a district or local authority to leverage DFI financing through a model that resembles project finance structure, with an SPV that is fully owned by government, that we can call development company, that will coordinate all the financing and the interaction with private sector investors in that particular area. The revenue model is very important, and the private investors are meant to establish a contractual relationship with the development company to pay fees in return of infrastructure services that meets their demand.
Mpata is a greenfield, though land is held by a few people in big chunks. It is highly expected that it's much easier to be able to reach an agreement with the landowners and come up with a development company that will take this to the next level. Gaba, purely built up area. Most of the land is held by the Kabaka part of the institutional land belongs to the Catholic Church, and there is a considerable area of the wetlands which has been encroached on. But for Muduma, it's a perfect mix. But in general, one stakeholder there is the NSSF, who have over 800 acres of land, and they are a very useful partner in this. And the good thing is they are willing and ready to go into joint ventures if we must develop that area.
There are increasing temperatures, a lot changes in the weather or precipitations that are unpredictable and affecting a number of different sectors in the area. These sectors include the infrastructure, where we're looking at roads, the buildings, the hospitals, and the schools and all those. And for the water, of course, we're looking at issues to do with water availability and access, as well as energy issues. So as the temperatures keep increasing, as all the climate models are mentioning and highlighting and are in agreement, that means that there's going to be more stress on these infrastructures if they are not planned and implemented, taking into account climate change impacts.
So our overall urban design approach for this project is best described with the word incrementalism. We're trying to be as organic and as context specific as we possibly can. We're trying to find something that is really specific to the local culture, the way the street spaces are being used, or all public spaces are being used, and then now combining that with an idea of finding smart, sustainable design principles. This is, for instance, in the interaction with wetlands. How can we protect the bottom of valleys? How can we protect the hilltops? How can we connect them with green corridors, with biodiversity corridors? What is the correct way of handling the issue of water retention?
So some of the mitigation options that we would be considering as the project or the initiative is being implemented is to integrate issues of one, energy efficiency technologies for a stretch of running through from the urban poor to those that are in the middle class, looking at issues especially in energy for cooking, looking at improved cook stoves, looking at the use of waste to energy, biogas that can be used to provide energy, but as well as providing better waste management opportunities, ultimately reducing the greenhouse emissions.
The poor are going to be there, informal sector is going to be there, formal sector is going to be there, and all the different bodies that are really going to help in terms of private sector or the public or the government, working together to make sure that we leave nobody behind. At the end of it all, we want to see that there's going to be ownership to the processes that we are going to be having, right from the initiation, formulation, implementation, and also when it comes to evaluate exactly what we've put down. So key would be how best can we try to make sure that we bridge, we co-create whatever we're going to do in terms of development, to make sure that there is that bridge that is going to put together the rich and the poor.
So we're trying to create a kind of demonstration or model area which would be different, and how it would be different would be there's lots of access to forests, maybe access to wetlands, respecting nature, living with nature, using footpaths and bicycles, and living in a very green and healthy environment in which there's no air pollution and in which we have a different kind of world.